Today we are going to learn more about layering and masking. So we're going to take what we learned last time and step it up a notch or two or three. This is called Me in One Word.
Okay, so what you're going to do to start this project, Me in One Word, well, essentially what you're going to do is try to describe yourself in one word, but also using images and so on. So take a few poses of yourself, serious, not so serious, or whatever, and I'm going to be using this one just because, but you might want to try different facial expressions because it's not that your face will actually be seen in this, but you might choose to reveal parts of it, and therefore maybe like a smile is important to you or whatever. So you're gonna have to figure that out as you watch and go through this, okay? So I'm gonna be throwing a lot of information your way, and I just want you to try to gather as much as you can of it and come back and rewind, or wherever you need to watch again, go ahead. So notice some things about this portrait that I took. It's a selfie. You can tell that my hands are kind of extended there, and that's okay. So you might want to have someone else take a picture of you because you can have a full body if you want or whatever, but it's best if you can try to take a picture against a solid background of sorts. Now, fortunately, I have a lot of white walls in my house. I just like white. We both like white in our house here, so a lot of the walls are white. And so I just took this in front of the wall, and I stood away from it a little bit so that I didn't have any shadow against the wall. That will help you in doing what you need to do. And I went in a room that had some fairly even lighting and decent lighting for this picture. Okay, so and then lastly, you'll notice that there's a contrast between my clothing and the wall. So that's a good option too. So for example, if you're wearing a black top, taking this photo against a black wall, you might want to change your clothes so that you have a contrast between the two colors, because that comes important when you're trying to edit. Okay, so try to get even lighting if you can. Step away from the wall, get a solid color background or a solid wall if you can, or as little distraction as possible in the back, and a nice contrast between you and the wall or the background. Okay, and so I'm going to now go into Photopea. I'm actually going to start by just opening the picture that I've chosen. So I have my 3 portraits, but I'm just going to choose number 2 with me smiling. So that opens up, and here we are. And what I need to do first is actually delete the wall behind me. So I just want my silhouette and nothing else. So to do that, I'm going to go over here on the left, and I'm going to choose this tool here, which is a magic wand. So I'm going to select that, and now I can click here in my image, and I don't know if you can see that. I'll try to zoom in. You can see that it's selected a bunch of stuff, but there's some things it doesn't know what to do with, so it kind of has this, those are called zebra lines. So it didn't select everything. So if I hit delete on my keyboard, you'll see that, it didn't quite select all of the background. But you'll see that it did a really nice job with going around, mostly around my hairline and so on, but then around my contrasted sweater against the wall, it did very well. But so we need to fix that. So I'm going to undo, and I have that selection. If I hold my shift key now and I click where it didn't quite get, you'll see that it's now selected more. And it didn't get quite over here close to my neck there. Oop, now it did. And if I zoom in, you'll see that those zebra lines go, and you can see that it did a really good job of kind of going against my my skin. And now up here in the corner is not selected, so hold my shift key down, click in there, and then down here in the bottom right corner, I'm gonna click shift and click in there. Now I've got a pretty decent selection, and if I hit delete, it takes away all of that and leaves me with just my silhouette. All right, so now in order to kind of get rid of that selection so that we don't have anything selected anymore, On my Mac, I hit Command D. On a PC, I would hit Control D, and that will get rid of like that we didn't select anything anymore. Okay, so now I can actually move myself around. I'm not going to worry about that because those are decisions I'm going to keep till later, but at least I have this. Great. Now what do? So now I'm going to, I've pre-selected, let me go back here to this folder. I've pre-selected some photos in unsplash.com, and I tried to find things that I feel describe me. So there's this picture here of a city because I love cities, big cities and so on. So I chose this, and I liked kind of the monotone, monochromatic feel of that picture. I chose this because I like to be creative. I like ideas and so on. So I chose this because the light bulb kind of, signifies ideas. I chose this because it's part of my creativity. I do music, and so there's a microphone. And I chose this one because I also love to take pictures and so on. So those are just some things. I could also use different pieces of technology in there too, because I love technology and so on. Modern things, basically, that's what I like. So I've chosen the word modern to describe myself. Now, I could choose other ones, but I'm going to choose that. And so all of the pictures that I've selected kind of fall into that category somehow. It helps to outline that word, right? And so I'm going to start bringing in photos. So to bring in a photo into this project, I'm going to say open in place. So that means open the photo, but place it into this project. Open in place. I'm going to find where I've downloaded them to, and I'm going to open up the city. Now you'll notice that the city goes right over top of me. Oh no, why did I even bother putting my portrait in there? Well, it'll come into play soon. So I'm actually gonna make this city kind of fill more of the frame, or actually fill up all over top of my silhouette, so that there's nothing so that the picture is actually bigger than my silhouette. I'm gonna hit enter or return to register that transformation I made. And what I have to do now is I want to do something where it's going to mask around my silhouette. What does that mean? Well, if I right click onto this layer, because that's my photo that I just put in, and I say clipping mask, watch what happens. So it actually kind of clipped my silhouette out of that mask, and I can still move that photo around and find a better position for it. So maybe I want to make those city buildings bigger now and so on. And I don't know, for the sake of this demonstration, we're not going to worry. I'm not going to make all sorts of design choices, because that's something you're going to have to play around with and toy with yourself. But I'm just going to find, generally, I like these buildings here. Maybe I could have found a picture that had more big buildings. There, I like this position right about here, because the building kind of goes and it goes right up to the top of my head. All right, so I'm gonna check mark that I'm done with that. So now what else can I do? Well, I'm gonna go back, open in place, and I'm going to find one of the other ones. So let's see, let's take the light bulb. So these are just, I'm giving ideas, right? I'm not saying you have to choose 4 photos. If there's one photo that kind of really envelops you perfectly, then great. Otherwise, you might want to try using different elements like I'm trying here. So I'm just giving ideas. I'm not saying that every idea I make here is a fantastic one. So now I have to find a place to put this. So maybe around here. And again, I'm going to right click on that layer and say clipping mask. And look what happens, boom. So now it's, again, clipped around, and you'll notice that it kind of cuts into that city line and so on. So earlier I said, well, maybe you might want to show your face. So let's just kind of pause here and talk about other things. So I can click back onto the city picture or layer here, and over here it says normal, but if you click on that, there's all these other words, and it would be too long of a video for me to explain each one. Besides, some of them are really hard to explain, but these are all ways that you can combine layers. So for example, if I say screen, let's just see what happens. Oh, so now you can kind of see where the dark pixels are in that photo. It brings back the photo that's behind it, which is my face, hard light and so on. So like there's different ways to combine these to make different types of effects. Color burn. So that kind of did a reverse. It shows my photo, but then the city building is there. I don't really like that. Maybe I want to show just a little bit of my face there. Who knows, right? Or if I go back to normal, for example, I can take this opacity and I can bring the opacity down where I show a little bit of both. So maybe we have to make those choices after we have more design choices made here. So let's go File, Open in Place, a different image this time. And this time I'm going to add the microphone. So the microphone gets put in, and you'll notice that first of all, it's behind that. Why? Because this layer happens to be behind or underneath the layer of the light bulb. So I can bring that layer up above and then it'll put it over top, but we're still gonna play around with it. But the microphone's a little bit too big, so I'm gonna make this layer smaller. Oops. Let's undo that. And take the corner here, make it a little smaller. And what I don't like is if I put it here, like the microphone kind of will get clipped off by my shoulder and so on. So I'm actually gonna right click onto that and say flip the image, so that now the microphone's on the other side and I have a little bit kind of different aspects to play with. So again, I'm gonna make this a little bit, size it up more appropriately, and I'm gonna try to line it up so that the top here matches, but you can be creative here, right? And right click on that layer, clipping mask, and presto, there. Now I'm still cut out. So far so good. And I could bring in one more of the camera, and where is it? Right there. And well, let's just see what happens if I say clipping mask right away. You know what? It's actually not that bad, but what happens is the city has kind of been lost. So now I'm gonna take this camera and I'm gonna play with different ways to blend that. And I'm just literally toying around with it. So now I can see part of the city. Maybe if I select the city photo again, I can move this, whoops, let's move that camera out of the way. Select the city photo, and now maybe I wanna move more of the building there, so I see that more. There, see, now that I've added other photos, I need to make other choices. So bring back the camera, and maybe I want the camera to be a little bit smaller. And maybe I want the camera, like I kept it on hard light, but maybe I want the opacity to be down a bit. So I'm gonna have to find what I like. Now let's say I like that so far, again, because I'm just giving ideas. Now I'm gonna add my word. So I said I'm gonna describe myself as modern. Now it's really small there, so I typed in MOD, in fact, and I'm gonna use this zoom in tool to just see better, so that now I can select that. I'm gonna make this larger. I'm gonna probably make it like 450 in size. Oh, so now I have to kind of back out. So I hit the zoom and then I hold down my Alt or Option key and go back to the text. I don't like that particular font, so I'm gonna change this. And let's, again, for speed here, I'm gonna just pick something different, but well, let's see. I like this one here for a second. So it was called Capture It. And so there it is. So I might want to put that there. And of course, depending on where it is, it'll play differently with all these layers. So you notice that it kind of drew out this thing, and I think that's just a bug. If I hit I'm going to undo. So that's a little bit of a little bit of a bug in the system. So I'm going to bring this up here. And so sometimes it's because it's an online piece of software, you're just going to have to be a little bit more patient, but I'm going to retry this. I think that was capture it. Let's try capture one actually. There. So let's say I like that. So now I can actually bring that below my picture and make sure that I'm actually selecting my text to move it, which can be a little tricky. See how I'm having a little bit of difficulty there choosing my text. So what I might do is just undo some of these other layers for a second so that I can move that a little closer. And you'll see that if I undo the camera again, which one is it? That one. Just it gets a little finicky at times. Oh, better undo that one too. I can start moving that around. I could do the masking like I did before. There's a bunch of different things I can try to start doing, right? But maybe I want that about there. Let's bring that back. And now I still need, so I'm gonna right click here, say duplicate this layer, and again, just make sure I shut off the layers I don't want to worry about. I take my mod copy here because that's the one I want. See, it's a little tricky. So let's turn off all of the other layers for a second. There. And now I'm going to, because I made a copy of that, I'm going to just say modern. And maybe this one is going to be in a different color. Let's say, I don't know, for some reason lately I've been liking like this pinkish kind of purple color. So we'll keep that, that theme of my current likes in there. And I'll bring back some of these layers so I can see how that looks. And if I still have that text selected, so I can move with just my left arrow key here. It's a little bit slow, right? But again, I could shut these off if I wanted to, so I can move that a little quicker. Great. So it's not, again, perfect, but let's just say that was how I wanted to keep it. Now, all that checkerboard is still like background that's empty, and you need to fill that. So I'm actually just going to toy with going down here, new adjustment layer, and I'm gonna say color fill. And again, I said I like that color, but I can't use entirely the same color because the font will get hidden. So I'm gonna go darker now, and it still plays with this color that's in the microphone picture too, so it might look good all together. Uh-oh, what happened, right? So it filled. When I went here and I said adjustment layer color fill, it created this layer with that color. Well, if I bring that layer back all the way behind, all of a sudden it's there, but it's still not kind of what I like, the masterpiece I was looking at. So I'm gonna go back, add another picture, and I'm gonna add the picture of the cityscape one more time. And I'm gonna just bring it there. It's in front of that solid color. I'm gonna make it fill the entire frame. And again, is this the best design choice? I don't know, because right now it's pretty busy. But I'm gonna choose that, and I'm gonna change the type of combination here. And I still don't like that, so I'm gonna make the opacity go down. and you know, maybe that's getting closer to what I want, and so on. So what I've done is I've taken photos that kind of embody some things about me. I could delete some things around this light bulb if I want to, so I can have more of the cityscape, but I've incorporated these photos into my silhouette. I've figured out that I didn't want to show my face after all, but I could if I wanted to. And I've combined the layers. I've added one word, modern, and I've used this kind of layering technique to go in between stuff. And if I wanted to, I could have, you know, taken this, the ERN of modern. I could have made it bigger. I wonder if I can do that. Yeah, I can do that without worrying about selection and so on. So I kind of ruined that because I need more of the N there. But if I moved it over, I could use the masking technique from the last lesson and put it behind the light bulb or something, right? In front of this layer, but behind the light bulb. So now you're creating even more three-dimensional type of space. And then when you're done, you're gonna file, export as a JPEG, and send that off to me. So, so that's what you're doing. You're describing yourself with one word, using different images. You're taking a picture of yourself to create your silhouette, and remember all the criteria that in the video that I talked about earlier, and try to make an artistic statement now. Now we're not just worried about the technical aspects. We're trying to figure out, like, what are the design choices? What best represents me, and how am I communicating that with this photo? Those are the other elements now that we're evaluating. Okay? Enjoy.